Create your ideal buyer persona. So the goal of this workshop is to understand what a user persona is and how it can help you to understand your customers better. User personas. So a user persona can help us to understand the behaviors, fears, and motivations of our audience. So they tend to be fictional characters that help make groups of people with similar service needs more understandable. Most people, when they are trying to generate new business and sales, think they know their customers inside out, but in reality, they don't. A user persona can help us to identify our customers. So, what value do personas have? So, they can help us to gain insights and share research findings. They can help get buy-in on a specific user problems within a team or outside a team. And they also help us to empathize and understand our users better and puts us in their shoes. And we all know if we can empathize with our customers, we then can build more rapport with them and we're more likely going to be able to gain more sales. So here are some user personas that people with their own businesses pop around their offices. So once they've actually created their user persona, which we'll be looking at in a little bit more detail shortly, we can then put them up around our workspace. We can even create little figures of our personas if we want. The most important thing is that once we actually do this task, we make use of the personas. So a lot of people conduct the task and then they put their personas to one side because they think they've learned. But no, what we should be doing is we should be putting them in our focus at every single time we're making a decision for our marketing, a decision for our website, a decision for the business. We should be asking ourselves, what does Sasha think? What does Isabel think? What would Julia do? What would Rob do? And we should be getting to know them and their personalities on a deeper level. And we're going to be able to make better decisions for our business. And we're also going to be able to become better salespeople and generate more leads. We can bring our personas to all collaboration sessions. So not just one-to-one meetings. If you're having a meeting with some other people who might be helping out your business or web design team, people who are going to be designing brochures in the future, anything like that. You want to bring them to all these types of sessions because they allow us to think about the user's needs and stop us from making design assumptions based upon our personal preferences. So if we're thinking about our website and we're going to create a sales funnel, in the future, we don't need to do this right now, but in the future, they're going to help us to make the best decisions for our users and not what we think. What do our users think? So we become an advocate for our users in all these different types of sessions. So how to create a user persona. So what do you want to learn about your customer? So write all these things down. And what did you learn from your interviews and surveys? What are your customers' goals? What are your customers' frustrations? What really, really angers them or annoys them? What's their pet peeve? And what are your customers' needs and expectations? So what we want to find out is not just what one customer thinks and adapt our product or service to their needs. We need to look at the majority. What do the majority of our customers feel frustrated with? What do the majority of our customers have as goals? And these may differ ever so slightly. And that's why we create a series of user personas to represent these slightly different personalities that we may find within our demographics and psychographics. And we can also draw up any data that you already have. Now, don't worry if you don't have any of this, but if you do, you can actually obtain some of the data about your user personas by looking at your heat maps, looking at your analytics. If you've got Google Analytics installed on your website, it will start to tell you what type of users are coming from different locations to your site, and give you a lot of information, their age range. So we go back to demographics. So some of these things will give you a lot of a lot more demographics about your user personas. You might have CRM data where you've already started to collect some information about your users, like who are they, how old are they, do you have any customer databases already, any past order history. Just have a look and see if there are any sort of similarities between the people who have already purchased from you. And here is a persona template. So hopefully this will give you a little bit more context. So what we need to do is actually start to visualize this persona. So this worksheet is available for download, and you can start to think about what it is that actually look like. What's their name? So we don't need to be precious about this, but giving them a name is somebody that we can start to build that rapport with, start to understand them, start to use them in discussions. And what is it they would likely be heard saying, when it comes to your product or service, or the frustrations that they're having around what it is that you're offering. What are the desires? So we're actually going to look at what it is they really, really want and what their frustrations are. How are they feeling towards your product or service? When we think about your competitors or how they've had to undertake their current task in the past or service, what has that felt like for them? What is how are they feeling on a much deeper level? And this information we can get a little bit more from when we're actually done the interviews and surveys. We're going to be able to build these pictures up in a little bit more detail. You might have 2 or 3 personas, you might have 4 or 5 personas. There's actually no real set limit, but we don't want to actually take it more than 5 or 6 personas, because it can start to get complicated, because then what we're doing is we end up catering to all these different types of personas. And the ideal thing that we want to do is when we're on social media, we want to be able to talk to that specific persona. So if you've got 2 or 3, we may create 2 or 3 different posts which may be targeted to each specific user persona in detail. You can go really deep with this. You can start to call them out via the personality. So we can look at the persona and say, what type of personality type would this particular persona be? If we were to kind of fit them to a personality type. And when we do that, what we then are able to do is on social media, we can then start to actually say, if we know that a particular personality type and your persona is quite restless and, is one of those people who switches from one thing to the next and the next to the next, we can actually call them out. And within our post description, we can say, are you tired of feeling so restless from moving from one task to the next? Because what we're doing is we're going to hook them in. And knowing your persona and absolutely nailing your persona will enable you to talk to your personas on social media, hook them in, get their attention. And then once you've got them and you've got those leads, you can then start the sales process. But we need to hook them in. And the best way to do that is to understand your personas, to understand how to conduct interviews and surveys, and to get to know them on a real granular level. So your homework is going to be to create a persona. A persona you don't need to spend too much time on, because you surely have already done some interviews, some surveys. You already might have some other information that you can draw upon already. Get it all together. Print these out. This should take you no more than 15 minutes per persona. Scribble down some ideas. Once you've actually feel like you've really got to know them, you can actually start to, make them look a bit more pretty, maybe do them on the computer. But for this moment, all I think you need to do is to create these personas in draft, because then what you're going to do is you're going to launch it quickly. You're going to speak to your persona on social media. You're going to test and see if it works. If you can't hook them in, you don't know your persona well enough.